Welcome back everyone, and it's time to go balls deep! Today we are talking about Jujutsu Kaisen regarding the curse technique called Domain Expansion, including its derivatives known as Domain Amplification and Simple Domain. By the end of this video, I promise you, Jujutsu Kaisen will make more sense and you will be able to enjoy it a lot more.
But Otto, those are the things you say in every Jujutsu Kaisen video, and in every Jujutsu Kaisen video, those things you're saying don't do the thing you're saying they'll do. The whole making sense thing. You say in every video they'll do that thing, but they don't do that thing. When are the things you're saying gonna do what you're saying they're going to do in things and stuff?
Hey, get back to work, Kevin boy! What are you talking about?
Shut up, bitch!
My editors are starting to get a bit too much confidence.
You're goddamn right.
And let's not kid ourselves. I know how most of you found this video. It's because we simp for Gojo. I mean, how can you not? Did you see his face reveal? Those eyes, those beautiful eyes. Now you're probably wondering, wait, how did he know I was looking up Gojo's domain expansion? Well, that's because as a community, we all know Gojo is someone you would simp for. Simple. No, seriously, it's because how epic Gojo's expansion is going to be. However, domain expansion is a really difficult concept to grasp for some readers. I myself read Jujutsu Kaisen's manga weekly and I'm watching the anime too, but a lot of us in the community are still somewhat confused till this day about some concepts regarding the power scaling.
Let me tell you my name. I'm confused.
So I am going to try my best for you and I hope you can appreciate that. So I humbly ask for you to please join the Anime Balls Deep community as we will be covering Jujutsu Kaisen a lot more and we need your support. Hit the notification bell and like the video to let us know you're with us. So if you guys watched our previous Jujutsu Kaisen videos, you would already have a brief understanding on what a domain expansion is. The most basic thing you need to understand is that in the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, there are people who can manipulate negative emotions and thoughts which form a special kind of power called cursed energy. This energy is the prerequisite of any curse related techniques, including domain expansion. If you feel as though you need a deeper dive into the concept of cursed energy and are lost right now already?
Yep, that's me.
I highly suggest for you to check out the playlist in the pinned comment of all our Jujutsu Kaisen videos that you can binge. Essentially, humans and curses can cast a domain expansion, but to perform such a technique, you have to be a pretty skilled sorcerer or curse spirit as it requires a lot of curse energy. No ordinary low rank fly can perform such a level of sorcery. You kinda have to be a special grade. Gojo explained in chapter 15 or episode 7 that the domain expansion we saw the curse womb cast against Itadori was not a proper domain, for example. If that cursed spirit had done a proper job of it, they would have surely died. A domain expansion is described by Saturo Gojo in chapter 15 as an environment constructed with cursed energy and manifested through a curse technique, with the said environment referred to as the sorcerer's innate territory. Now you're probably scratching your head, probably wondering what the hell is Saturo Gojo saying? Basically, Jogo's curse technique uses fire-based attacks and is a literal volcano, right?
Yes.
His domain revolves around creating just that. His innate territory would be a volcano as his cursed spirit was born through the fear of this natural disaster, whereas Dogon's domain is a tropical island where its summons can bite their prey guaranteed as his original curse technique was based on water and sea creatures. Domain expansion is a pretty exclusive technique and from the 135 chapters so far, we have only seen 7 characters cast it. Sukuna, the king of curses, Jogo, Satoru Gojo, Mahito, Hanami, Megumi for Shigoro, but his one was kinda incomplete version, and Dogon. Domain expansion is a power exclusive to the strong curse energy users. A character like Maki Zenin would not be able to cast one as she is rejected due to her natural low level of cursed energy. In fact, she may not have any. However, I am not saying she can't become a strong person through other practices, but domain expansion itself seems to specifically require strong curse energy that will create a 3-dimensional construct. For example, Nanami, a grade 1 sorcerer, said in chapter 30 that domain expansion is a technique he was not able to master after witnessing Mahito's. There are some outliers in Jujutsu Kaisen, however, such as Toji Fushiguro, as he proves that you don't have to be someone that has curse energy to be utterly broken in the universe of this anime, as he had no curse energy but somehow bodied special grades like Dogon. This dude was utterly broken on Gojo's level.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
Another thing you need to know is that Gojo told us that curse energy and techniques are partly inherited and determined through a person's genetics. So I guess you can say that Itadori is the chosen one because he's the shonen protagonist?
Yes.
How else could Itadori potentially break the 100-meter world record with such ease at 16 years old? From this, we know Itadori is someone that could potentially get a domain expansion in the future. Now, you may be wondering at this point of the video, what are the benefits of using domain expansion? Well, stick around till the end of the video as we will definitely give you the answer. So what exactly is domain expansion? Well, to put it in the simplest way, domain expansion is essentially a technique where cursed energy is harnessed to construct a three-dimensional space covering the surrounding area in the caster's control, allowing them to hit their target with absolute 100% accuracy. If you're having a hard time understanding, think about it this way. You know Kisame, the shark dude from Naruto? Well, remember that jutsu he used against Killer Bee? That jutsu was kind of like his own domain expansion, which allowed him to unleash his true form, which is almost a literal shark within the confines of his own space. A great in-universe example is Jujutsu Kaisen's #1 simp magnet. I simp for Gojo. Yeah, goddamn, Saturo Gojo, I said it, mate. As you all might know, if you're coming from the new episode 7, Gojo's domain expansion Unlimited Void is freaking broken, because this allows him to flood his opponent's mind with never-ending information, allowing them to see and feel everything. Yeah, that's what I just said. Weren't you listening?
No!
The environment created by Unlimited Void is a literal empty void of space that appears to take the target at the very center of the universe itself. This presents the target with limitless information, forcing them to see and feel everything while seeing and feeling nothing at the exact same time. This phenomena paralyzes the target with infinite knowledge, causing them to die slowly. So you can see why this could be so dangerous, right? Well, there's more! As with all domain expansions, Gojo's Unlimited Void allows him to use additional curse techniques as well as enhanced versions of his pre-existing techniques. Something else to know about domain expansion is in chapter 30, is that the more reinforced they are on the inside, the more vulnerable they become on the outside. It's essentially supposed to trap one's prey, but an outside rescue shouldn't ever be too difficult. It's also possible to outdo your opponent's expansion by activating your own domain expansion. That is, if yours is stronger than theirs. Like for instance, I know I keep going back to this, but in the fight between Gojo and Jogo in episode 7, Jogo had already activated his domain expansion, Coffin of the Iron Mountain, when Gojo was like, oh, that's cute, but let me show you something really powerful, and he whipped out the superior infinity of the two domains. That just proves if your domain expansion is stronger, you can outdo your opponent. Megumi attempted this against Dogon to escape in chapter 109 as well. Now this all sounds like a whole lot of power Jujutsu Kaisen characters have. It sounds like these guys must be pretty freaking OP, but the truth is there's a drawback to using domain expansion. This technique uses a lot of cursed energy, so it's not something to just whip out and use all willy-nilly. You have to be careful, and harm can only occur to those that chose to enter the domain. Other people can rescue that said person from the outside the stronger your domain is. So if you don't kill your prey within that moment, you have wasted a lot of curse energy. Alright, now let's talk about Simple Domain. As the name suggests, it's a domain expansion but in a more simplistic manner. It's basically a poor man's domain expansion. We first see Simple Domain in chapter 35, used by Kusumi Miwa from the Kyoto branch of Jujutsu High. In its traditional form, Simple Domain creates a 2.21 meter circle around the user from a set point they choose with their feet. Any curse techniques casted in this area will automatically be be dispelled. The only drawback is that if their feet leave the point where the domain had started, then the technique is dispelled. Simple domain was first created during the Heian period by Setsuna Ashiya. I said that wrong. Sadatsuna Ashiya. Bruh, how do I pronounce this goddamn name?
Bruh, let me try. Setsuna Ashiya. Chiha, what the fuck?
See, I told you it's hard.
That's what she said.
Ashiya created this simple domain technique in order to protect his disciples from evil curses and curse users. The technique was passed down his family for 1,000 years. Although this simple domain technique is seen as a weak man's domain expansion, you can't count it out, as this technique has the ability to cancel out other domains, as we saw in chapter 82 with Kokichiya Muta. We learned that if another domain is activated inside a domain, even the caster of the first domain will be vulnerable. This is what happened to Mahito in this chapter. Although anyone can learn a simple domain, the secret to this technique is not given out to anyone other than the Ashiya clan. However, there is an exception to this, being Kokichi Muta. Muta couldn't learn the technique through the descendants of the Ashiya clan, so started to construct his own variation of simple domain through observation. He calls it contemporary simple domain. Instead of planting your feet at a 2-meter circle, Muta has these bullets or tubes which are imbued with curse energy for simple domain. He uses the ultimate form of Mekamaru's puppet to shoot the tubes as bullet towards the opponent. This causes the opponent's domain and any technique which were active to be dispelled instantly, as we saw in chapter 82 with Mahito's domain. Then we have domain amplification, which is a very similar concept to simple domain. Both neutralize curse techniques and are able to be used by the weaker sorcerers. But what makes domain amplification different from the simple domain is how it neutralizes those curse techniques. While the simple domain sets an area of space, the domain amplification completely covers the body of the user, almost like an aura. In chapter 84, Gojo explains it as being surrounded with water. So think of it like this, guys. The simple domain is like building a castle to protect yourself, while the domain amplification is like putting on a suit of armor. While the castle is a set area of defense, it's grounded, whereas the suit of armor allows you to move around freely with protection. Whilst this aura is activated, the user cannot be hit with techniques, but they also can't use any techniques of their own. However, the domain doesn't stop physical attacks and curse energy from hitting them or using them at all. If you guys want to know why it stops techniques but not energy and what the difference is, I suggest you check out our other video where we cover all the other different types of curses. We saw in chapter 85 with Hanami, right before he had an eye appointment with Dr. Gojo, the user is able to enable and disable the domain pretty much instantaneously. This is like flipping a light switch. So with that, I hope we broke down everything you need to know about the domain techniques. But I know it can be confusing as there are some overlaps between the three powers. The main similarity between simple domain, domain expansion, and domain amplification is that all three have the ability to nullify an opponent's techniques. The difference between domain expansion and simple domain is that the user's attacks are almost guaranteed to hit the opponent, whereas this isn't the case with domain amplification. It doesn't have this power. Domain expansion and a simple domain are also different because a definitive area or space is created, and it is much larger than the user with the purpose of entrapment. Comparatively, domain amplification works in a very small space around the user, which will change shape with the user, and it is not used to trap your prey. If the domain expansion and simple domain are stronger than the opponent's domain expansion, as we just witnessed Saturo Gojo do that against Jogo, they will be able to outpush the opponent's domain expansion, whereas a domain amplification cannot do this at all. Only a domain expansion is fully imbued with the user's curse technique, where a simple domain and domain amplification are not. A domain expansion is inescapable. While you can escape a simple domain and domain amplification, it's not used for trapping, as I just said. It's a defensive response. Yo, how many times am I gonna say domain in this video? Who the hell scripted this part, bruh? But lastly, an activation stance is required when using a simple domain, while domain expansion and domain amplification don't need it. Basically, simple domain limits the user's movements just to perform this technique, and then domain amplification is a defensive measure to protect the user from curse techniques. Another thing to know is that domains are very unique to the user, meaning that even though the concept for domains are pretty much the same for everyone, the application of it can be different. For example, Saturo Gojo's domain Infinity, it literally encapsulates everyone in his surrounding area, forcing them inside his domain, whereas Sukuna's can bring his domain into the world itself by summoning a shrine, a Buddhist one at that, into the battlefield and not creating a separate space using a barrier. So with Sukuna, by allowing an escape route, Sukuna's domain automatically creates a binding vow that allows a massive increase to his guaranteed hit range, in this case a maximum radius of nearly 200 meters, which is ridiculous. Yeah, he's the king of curses, right?
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
Anyway guys, that's everything you need to know about domain expansion, and you pretty much understand the power scaling of Jujutsu Kaisen a lot more. Remember, there is a complete playlist of our videos in the pinned comment below. You can get your snacks and binge watch the heck out of it. Join our Discord, our Twitter, our Instagram, and make sure to like the video so we know we should keep doing this. Thank you and bye bye.